up, City's Cash for Work program in the Philippines is helping typhoon survivors get back on their feet. We learn how a new method developed by Academia Sinica can help detect cancer cells in just 20 minutes. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Wendy Chen. Thank you for joining us. As part of its continuing assistance to help Typhoon Haiyan survivors in the Philippines, the Taiwan military has readied its second aid shipment on a naval vessel destined for Cebu Harbor. The shipment contains various items donated by the Tzu Chi Foundation, including power generators, aid packs, and food. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, Tzu Chi's Cash for Work program has elicited a positive response in Anibon district of Tacloban City, with the number of participants increasing from 600 to 15,000 residents.
Since Tzu Chi Foundation's launch of its Cash for Work program in Tacloban City 6 days ago, the number of participants has increased from 600 to 15,000.
We have tried to help these disaster survivors with the Cash for Work program. As long as they receive wages, they can purchase daily necessities. Furthermore, their spending can help revitalize the local economy.
Since the inception of the Cash for Work program, the streets of Tacloban City have shown great improvement over the 6-day span. Vendors have resumed their businesses in local markets and on the streets. Thanks to Tzu Chi's program, local residents are gradually getting back on their feet.
When we carried out the initial disaster survey here, the streets were cluttered with debris and the markets were lifeless. However, these places are now teeming with activity. Crowds and traffic jams are common. Many street vendors have resumed their businesses too.
As part of their continuing assistance to disaster survivors, Tzu Chi volunteers will be conducting further Cash for Work program in coastal communities in order to help as many survivors as possible. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, the Philippines ambassador, Antonio Basilo, on behalf of his country and people, expresses gratitude for the Taiwanese assistance. On November 25th, the military readied a second relief shipment on a naval vessel destined for the Philippines.
The first aid shipment was delivered via 18 military transport aircrafts from November 12th to the 21st. In the second shipment, we are sending over 500 tons of aid supplies. In total, we have donated approximately 700 tons of aid supplies to the Philippines.
The second aid shipment contains Tzu Chi's donations, including 10 solar power generators, 100 LED lights, 15,000 aid packs, and 80 ready-made classrooms.
We use 7 20-foot long containers to transport the 80 ready-made classrooms. Some of them were already delivered to the Philippines, and others will be delivered soon.
The naval vessel carrying the aid shipment and the blessings of the Taiwanese people is currently heading for the harbor of Cebu City and is estimated to arrive on November 28th.
To extend their help to the disaster survivors in the Philippines, Canada Tzu Chi volunteers have mobilized to fundraise in the Greater Vancouver region over the past 2 weekends. Let's take a look. Despite the temperatures nearing 0 degrees Celsius, Canada Tzu Chi volunteers are all geared up to canvass for donations on the streets of Vancouver.
Though the weather is really cold, it is only 4 degrees Celsius. Every volunteer here is happy to take part. We have received a great response from passers-by. The temperatures may be low, but our hearts are all warm.
Tzu Chi's fundraising campaign is not only well received by the general public, but a passerby even wrote a thank you card to the volunteers.
A member of the public wrote the Tzu Chi Foundation a thank you card for the contribution we have made in our fundraising efforts.
Standing here to raise funds, perhaps a smile of mine will get the local residents to notice what Tzu Chi is doing and inspire them to give their love to help those in the Philippines. I feel truly blessed.
To send their love to the Philippines, Tzu Chi volunteers in Canada have canvassed for donations over the past 2 weekends. In Surrey District, Tzu Chi's fundraising events moved many Filipino residents.
Seeing my people back home suffering, my heart really aches. I am grateful to the Tzu Chi volunteers for extending their help. I want to tell everyone not to lose hope.
Thank you very much, and I'm so happy to see all those people around me right now. So I'm so grateful they're helping our country, Philippines. Thank you very much.
Though having to stand for over 10 hours a day, not one volunteer complained, as each hopes to pass on their love to the disaster survivors as quickly as possible.
I've been standing for over an hour, but no, I'm not cold. We are passionate about contributing our love to help those in need.
Moving to China to help impoverished families get through the harsh winter, Tzu Chi volunteers from 6 regions gathered to carry out a series of winter aid distributions. The first stop was in Shanxi province, where they not only offered relief items, but also free health checks for local residents.
Before sunrise, as Tzu Chi volunteers get ready to set off, the temperature is less than 3 degrees Celsius. Their destination this time is the Wu village in Xi'an of Shanxi province. Despite the muddy roads ahead, the volunteers forge ahead.
This rainfall is something we have to cherish because it will bring about next year's harvest. Before we arrived here, this place was in a drought, but now plentiful rain has come as a blessing.
Greeting the aid recipients with their local dialect, Tzu Chi volunteers' consideration closes the gap with their aid recipients. Later, Tzu Chi brothers helped aid recipients carry their relief items home. The volunteers also seized the opportunity to visit the family of Tzu Chi care recipient Wu Yuanyuan.
I come from an impoverished family and live far away from the urban areas. The only way to leave poverty behind, I think, is to go to a good college and get a job in the city.
Leaving poverty behind is what most residents here long for. To help, Tzu Chi volunteers started with free health checkups to safeguard the health of the local residents.
Although they live in such difficult conditions, they still remain self-dependent and optimistic. I'm thankful for being able to contribute my love to the less fortunate.
Despite living in hardship, these care recipients still live with optimism, and their spirit moves the volunteers to carry on with their efforts.
I can sense their vitality, and through their example, I feel we have a brighter future.
Australia is referred by many as a paradise. However, living here as a refugee is not as ideal as it seems. Though refugees are given subsidies and a temporary place to stay, they are not permitted to work while waiting for their residency to go through. For someone who is new to the country, the separation from society can result in emotional hardship. Thankfully, there are charity organizations like Tzu Chi to help involve refugees in their community and make them feel welcomed to their new home.
Known for its sunny days and laid-back living environment, many people consider Australia the ideal country to live in. This year, Australia's population shot past 2.3 million, with many new citizens being immigrants. Among these immigrants are thousands of refugees who have come seeking freedom, enduring much hardship along the way.
If anybody wants to come here to a boat, I tell no, because it's not worth it. It's better to die.
Having escaped from death whenever Farshad Asghari hears the crashing of the waves, he vividly recalls the 31-hour journey from Indonesia to Australia. 67 people all packed in a boat like sardines, facing an uncertain future, massive waves, and a possible capsize.
It was very powerful, very, loud sound. All people were crying. All people were crying. All people were screaming.
The tragic scene of lives lost is played over and over again, yet refugees continue to risk their lives for freedom. Despite being illegally in the country, the Australian government makes arrangements for refugees that make it to its shores.
So it's quite a struggle to set yourself up in a new country, to rent a house, to pay for rent, to set that house up with a bed, a table, some chairs, some basic items, and then to feed yourself and pay all the usual costs that everyone else pays. Telephone, electricity, gas, transport. And the other issue I think is a key one is language. People don't get the same access to language support.
The Australian government will provide temporary living quarters for new refugees, but besides simple furniture and bare walls, not much else is included. Knowing not a soul in the country, Asghari gathered up his courage to reach out to the local community.
Hi.
Hello. How are you? Very good. Yes. Okay. Yes, of course. You're welcome.
Coincidentally, he lives near a Tzu Chi liaison office.
Yes. Okay. Here's a blanket for you. Hope it help you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's so essential.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because they are, very valuable. They are very respectful. I mean, the stuff that they gave me, very respectful, and I try to keep them forever.
We try to make him feel welcome. As refugees cannot legally work, we hoped he would be able to volunteer his time to help others in need. I think emotional and spiritual support is very important for people. Through volunteering with us, mutual trust is built, and he knows he can talk to us if he needs to.
Waiting for his permanent residency approval, Asghari cannot legally work. Thus, he spends his time volunteering at Tzu Chi by helping out during aid distributions. Not having the chance to finish his university degree, Asghari hopes to complete that dream here. Forced to leave their motherland and settle in a new country, where is home for these refugees? For them, maybe home is a place where they are sheltered from the elements and their hearts can rest.
Though cancer is currently the leading cause of death worldwide, early detection of cancer can greatly increase the chances for successful treatment and survival. Currently, Taiwan's Ministry of Health is providing breast cancer, colorectal cancer, oral cancer, and cervical cancer screening free of charge, as these 4 types of cancer account for 1/3 of total cancer cases. Recently, the Academia Sinica has come up with a new method whereby a simple blood and tissue sample can quickly detect the existence of cancer. Here's more.
A portable instrument that is able to detect cancer cells in the human body is no longer a dream, but now sits in the palm of my hand. If we take a look inside, there's a LED light source and a filter. If we can place a tissue sample here, the LED light will be able to detect possible cancer cells.
The simple device costs less than $5,080 to produce. Why is it able to detect cancer cells? It is all because of an added compound known as BMVC. Inside these 2 test tubes, one contains healthy cells and the other contains cancer cells. Both are injected with BMVC, and under the light source, both show different results.
When the BMVC compound binds with the nucleus of cancer cells, fluorescence quantum yields increase dramatically. However, an absence of DNA in lysosomes will cause the fluorescence yield to be 10 times weaker in normal cells. Hence, we can easily separate cancer cells from normal cells.
The unique light source and the screening of the samples make cancer cells easily detectable. The entire screening process only takes about 20 minutes and has a 90% accuracy rate.
Previously, we were able to determine blood sugar levels just with one drop of blood. So based on the same principle, I wonder if we could also come up with a similar way to detect cancer cells.
A simple detection of cancer cells is no longer impossible. However, as this detector is still currently in the developmental stage and has not been released on the market, it should not be confused with screening tests for tumor markers. The former is directly testing for cancer cells, while the latter is used to detect molecular targets. Many people only rely on blood screening and mistakenly presume that their body is fine because cancer cells are not detected in the tumor markers. But this is a misconception.
Over 80% of our clinical patients are breast cancer sufferers, and those who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, their tumor markers show no abnormality. Tumor markers are just indicators. We rely mostly on clinical diagnosis, where we take the patient's symptoms, family medical history, health checkups, and screening.
For oral cancer, doctors do a screening of the oral mucosa to check for cancerous lesions, followed by a biopsy. For breast cancer patients, tumors can be detected through a mammogram. And to screen for cervical cancer, epithelial cells are extracted and checked under a microscope. Lastly, a fecal occult blood test is conducted to check for colorectal cancer.
If the polyp growth in the colon worsens and causes gastrointestinal bleeding, we will be able to detect it via a fecal occult blood test.
One person dies of cancer every 13 minutes in Taiwan, making it the leading cause of death in the country and worldwide. Thus, enhancing cancer screening has been an ongoing effort of the medical profession.
My sister was diagnosed with breast cancer and my eldest sister with leukemia, so I am very adamant about doing cancer screening.
Once cancer has been diagnosed, the next phase is treatment. In our report tomorrow, we will show you current medical treatment technology, as well as the results of cancer research and vaccinations by the Academia Sinica.
Over the past 2 days, we have learned how detrimental trans fat can be for our human body and how labeling of trans fat is a current issue here in Taiwan. In today's report, we see how the general public has become more aware of the food they eat, how some food makers in Taiwan have voluntarily restricted their use of trans fat, as well as ways to opt for a healthier diet. First, a plate of cookies is made using vegetable oil that has trans fat in it. Next, another batch of cookies is made, which uses natural cooking oil with no trans fat. In the end, what is the difference?
The cookies baked with hydrogenated oil are darker in color and not as oily. The ones baked with natural cooking oil are lighter in color and seem oily on the outside. They also taste different.
To test the difference in flavor, we have 10 students here to try out the cookies. If you think this is delicious, please raise your hands. Raise your hand if you think this is more delicious.
Over half of the students find the cookies made with trans fat more delicious. As trans fat adds a crispy and crunchy taste to food, most of the man-made butter on the market now includes trans fats.
This is natural butter. This is hydrogenated oil, which has trans fatty acids, and it is white in color. To make it look more like natural butter, food makers add coloring and turn it into this.
Trans fat is heat resistant and is widely used in packaged or fried food. Nonetheless, it increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. Beginning this year, the United States has announced a ban on all man-made trans fats. Though similar regulations are not found here in Taiwan, conscientious food makers have long stopped using any ingredients with trans fats.
Beginning some 7 to 8 years ago, in cooperation with the Health Bureau, we started prohibiting the use of trans fat. The anhydrous butter used in our bakery industry comes from ruminants such as cattle and sheep. Through their digestive system, trans fat is naturally produced, but these are not harmful to our body.
Natural trans fat has a different molecular structure than that of those man-made and is not detrimental to the human body. However, man-made trans fat is said to have less health benefits than natural animal oil. In recent years, As the general public has become more aware of the health risks posed by trans fat, food makers have excluded them on labeling, but increased the amount of saturated fat usage.
Hydrogenated fat is a type of saturated fatty acid, and after blending it with animal fat, these saturated fatty acids will easily increase the risk of cardiovascular disease.
As members of the public seek out food to satisfy their taste buds, food makers will go the extra mile to create processed but tasty food for shoppers.
We may need to change our eating habits and look for products that are made with natural ingredients. With food that is too crunchy and crispy, you may need to consider you are eating trans fat from hydrogenated oil.
For those wishing to pursue a healthier lifestyle, it is recommended to refrain from eating fried food and desserts to avoid absorbing trans fat and opt for vegetables and fruit instead. As the upcoming Water Repentance Sutra musical in Singapore draws near, volunteers from the Tzu Chi Singapore chapter have organized 2 days of rehearsals for the 504 participants. Let's take a look.
After 4 months of practicing separately in small groups, today the 504 onstage volunteers performing in the musical adaptation of the Water Repentance Sutra have come together for a rehearsal.
Practicing in their community groups, the onstage volunteers didn't have a chance to learn when to walk and where to stand, so in the beginning it was kind of a mess.
But as they say, practice makes perfect. Routes up the stairs are made clear. Instructions are called out. Slowly, everyone's movements come together, and one can see that this show is on its way to being a success. By the end, steps are steady, stances confident, and movements crisp.
After working hard, you can see everyone's movement congeal, seeing that it makes you emotional and that makes you feel like crying.
When everyone sang the section of Life After Life on the path to enlightenment, I felt something really deeply. It was as if every one person here had made a vow to do just that and never relax in their efforts towards that goal.
Although the practice venue could only accommodate 100 people or so, today it was filled with 504 volunteers who, despite the space constrictions, were able to finish their rehearsal on a high note.
Back to Taiwan, as some 90,000 new immigrants now live in different areas of New Taipei City, the local government held a multicultural event to introduce different cultures to local residents. Tzu Chi volunteers were on site to promote environmentalism to passers-by, while team of medical staff arrived to hold a free clinic. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.